Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today, as you can tell by the title, we have a little bit of a repot and chat. I was originally going to make this a repot and chat that primarily had to do with plants that I was chopping, but it seems like I overestimated how many plants could actually be chopped than plants that actually could be chopped. So there's only one plant here in this whole roster that's going to be chopped, but the rest of them are either rehabs or they just need a bigger vessel, or yeah, rehabs needs a bigger vessel or just needs to be chopped. So that's what today's repot is going to be, and as you can tell by the title, we're also going to be talking about some of my favorite scary movies. And just to let you know, this was a very hard topic for me to talk about. It's one of my, like, you would think that I would love that question, like, oh, what's your like all-time favorite scary movie, or like what's your top 5 or something. And it was hard for me to narrow it down because there's so many genres within like the horror genre. I almost love different movies for different reasons, but I love them about the same. So I tried to put together a good list for you, so we'll get into that a little bit later once we get to repotting. But as usual, I'm just going to show you the roster first. So first one up is this Summer Glory. The month of September into now the month of October, the overall theme of a lot of the videos that I've been putting up lately, and my life in general, the theme of my life has been downsizing and reclaiming my time. And I'm so glad that, like, because I've been posting a few videos now about chopping plants, getting rid of plants. I did a whole week of that was dedicated to purging, and like so many of you have sent me messages saying that like it inspired you to downsize your collection, it inspired you to like get rid of plants that you've been just like holding on to for a long time. So I just wanted to continue that, and also just kind of like be here to reassure you that it's okay. And I do hope that it has helped with your mental health and that it wasn't too hard to get rid of. But seriously, once you get your time back, it's just so worth it. So anyway, in one of those videos, I showed that I got rid of my large Summer Glory, and honestly, I never would have thought that I'd be in that place, because the reason that I got a second Summer Glory was because I loved it so much, and because I loved it when it was really big. And the second one that I acquired, because this was the first one that I got as a really small plant, I think this was one of the original leaves on it. Yeah, I just wanted a larger one just because I liked the way it looked. I was kind of impatient to see this one get bigger, but just as I've seen it grow, as the longer I've owned it, I'm just like, you know what, there's honestly no reason for me to own 2 of these. There are some plants that I like to keep as backup, so like I have 2 tortums just in case my tortum back here goes to crap for whatever reason. I have a backup. I always have a backup Frydek. Like, there's always backups to some of my favorite plants, and that was kind of my mentality into getting a second one. But this has just been so easy that to me, there's no reason for me to have a backup. It grows so fast that as long as I can keep the stem happy, I should always have some kind of backup, or at least like a stem that I can work with. And this one is already getting like pretty big. You can see it's really showing those really nice distinct Summer Glory features, that super coppery greenish leaf, the really pink venation on the emergent leaves. Yeah, I'm just happy. Like, I'm just happy with this plant. I'm happy with the size of it. I'm happy with the growth of it. I just feel like one is enough. So this one is in the tiniest little pot. It's just growing in soil. It's about to hit the edge of the pot. So I just figure it's time to repot this. I'm probably not going to chop it just because the only propagations that I'm wanting to take as of this moment are plants that I'm selling. So I have no plans of chopping this to sell. I really just want to try and size this one up to what my other one was, to the size that my other one was. But I will probably chop off some of these lower leaves just because it's getting pretty bushy. I find that this one doesn't drop leaves very often. It's very similar to like the tenyu. The tenyu I find doesn't drop many leaves. My soderini doesn't drop many leaves. There are some philodendron in my collection that just like you know how some philodendron will like out with one, in with another one. This one is just like new. None of the old ones are going out. So yeah, I'll probably just give this one a little bit of a haircut just to fit it easier into the pot and kind of like fit in better with the plants that it's sitting next to in the plant room. So yeah, this is the first one that I'm gonna be doing. By the way, I think my tactic, I think my process for today's repot is going to be to just like unearth all of them and then pest treat them once they're all bare root, and then I'll repot them at the end. None of these, to my knowledge, have any pests, but I guess just to be proactive, I'd like to do that. The second plant that I'm gonna be repotting today is my crystal it's just habit to say that. It's my crystal, what? No, I said it again. It is my Magnificum crystallinum from Bunny, from my friend Amanda. She just has this beautiful, beautiful mother plant that pushes out leaves that are very red crystal-like. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the camera, but there is a super, super faint and slight red color at the very like tip of the midrib. It's just very slightly pink. It's almost the color of like this petiole and like the venation in the back. It does not look anything like any crystal mags or any mag crystals that I've ever seen. It just has beautiful, beautiful genetics. Anyway, I kind of suspected that something might be wrong with this just because all three of these leaves, they were pushed out in my care and there has been no size jump at all, and I just kind of figured maybe something was wrong in here, and so I took it out of the cover pot it was in, and sure enough, there's like just so many rotted roots in here. So right now it's in a mix of lechuzapon and tree fern fiber, but I think like what I've been doing to a lot of my my anthurium, I don't think I have any in front of me here, but I've been moving it to, you know what, I'm just gonna not be lazy and I'm gonna go grab it. This is another Bunny plant. This is my Papillolaminum Wonder Boy, and I just wanted to show you an example of the setup that I've been doing for a lot of my anthurium. I've recently moved, I've probably switched maybe half of them now to this kind of setup, and the reason that I did this is because I just felt like what I was doing with anthurium wasn't working. You know, I had started to acclimatize them down over the last year and a half to ambient conditions because I know it can be done, but something always has been a little bit funky with them, and I just figure like, let's try something new, let's try something else. And so I got a lot of them out of no drainage and into pots with drainage, and I'm not sitting here and saying that no drainage doesn't work. I am super comfortable doing it with pretty much any other plant. Anthurium, I'm still trying to figure out. And I recently, or maybe 3 or 4 months ago now, I used silica, TPS silica for the first time on my anthurium with drainage holes, without drainage holes. I use it at half strength and it turned a lot of my anthurium yellow like this. So now I'm like, well, I still want to use silica and I feel like I should be fertilizing my anthurium a little bit more than I have been, but I'm hesitant to because I'm not using drainage holes. So now that it's in a setup like this, I feel a bit more confident flushing it. I feel more confident fertilizing even at normal strength, not even doing it half strength. And I feel like some of my anthurium have been reacting really well to it. There are some that I moved it to this setup and it just doesn't look great, but I'm chalking it up to transplant shock and just kind of readjusting because I can see some nice healthy roots. It's just that some of the leaves have kind of taken a beating in that transition. But just like I did with moving my plants out to ambient conditions, I'm just going to give it time. I'm going to keep reminding myself that there is probably going to be like this weird sort of growing pain stage. Like I don't expect to just like have instant results and just like have my problems be fixed like that. So anyway, sorry, longest tangent ever, but all that to say, I'm going to move this into that kind of setup. The stem is getting kind of long out here. I can see an opportunity for some nice root growth. Oh God, I touched the mic, sorry. I don't know if you guys can see those bright yellow roots that are kind of starting to pop out now on the stem. But I think she's just ready to be in something different. I felt like tree fern fiber was kind of a safe bet for most of my anthurium, but I find that growing on here where there's not as much light as it was getting before, I think it gets a little bit tricky. So anyway, this is another one that I'm gonna be transferring, and I have another bunny plant, which is this fun little guy. So this is an anthurium chia presents crossed with a vera presents, and I just think that this is one of like the coolest hybrids ever. I think it's because I love like the billy so much, I love the long leaf philodendron so much, that I kind of get a taste of that with this. It's a bit funner than the ecuadorens in my opinion, and same kind of texture, same like leaf texture and leaf color. But I like the shape of these a bit more. Kind of looks like a little spiritus. I don't know, like if an anthurium was a spiritus. Although, you know, it's probably gonna change a bit as it matures. But this one has just needed a new pot for ages. It's been in this tiniest little thing for way too long. I think I acclimatized it in this thing, and it needs to come out. A lot of the stem is exposed. This new leaf completely just shriveled and died in the caterpillar for I don't know what reason. Yeah, just really quickly. I just wanted to get this into something bigger, and I do think I'm gonna try and do the same setup as this. The next plant, another anthurium. This is my anthurium ace of spades, another bunny plant. You guys can just almost guarantee that most of my anthurium are gonna come from Amanda. This one is in a, what's going on here? Oh, I see. So, oh my God, there's a lot of water in there. Oh no, okay, I can show you a little better what's going on here. So I didn't even realize I had it in this setup. So it's in a little tiny 2-inch pot with drainage holes, and then it's shoved into a cup without drainage holes. So it's basically in the setup that I want to do for my anthurium, but it's just way too small. Like, look at how much stem is exposed. There's actually a secondary growth point that has popped out of here. The leaf melted off, but I kind of think maybe I'll try and separate it. I don't know, it might be too early. Maybe I should just leave it and let them grow together, and then once it gets bigger and much easier to remove, then I'll remove it. I'm not in a huge rush right now to try and separate this plant. Plus that offset was just a surprise anyway. So anyway, Ace of Spades is actually starting to get bigger. I struggled with this guy for way too long. I think this was one of my first bunny plants, and I would have thought by now that it would have been way bigger. But we hit a few road bumps, and I've just found that this one has been a little bit more difficult for me in terms of acclimatizing. I'm not really quite sure what it wanted. I didn't want to change the conditions too much. So this has been in an exo, I would say, for most of its life. And very recently I've moved it into the Millsbow when I converted it into my anthurium cabinet. I'm even gonna show you guys my anthurium cabinet. Oh, maybe in my last week of I would have shown you kind of the reconfiguration of everything. So actually in here is where I keep a lot of my anthurium that are gonna be acclimatized eventually out to the shelf. Anyway, this one is in the cabinet. It is one that I'm hoping maybe by next summer to move out onto the shelf. I know a lot of people who grow this plant in ambient conditions, so I think I have faith that once it gets a little bit bigger, once it gets more established, that it'll do better for me. And so far, so good. I finally have a leaf that looks like an ace of spades, and I'm actually so glad that I managed to save this plant, because for when it died back down to a stump, I kind of lost it. I didn't label it, and there was a time where I had so many stumps, unlabeled stumps, and things were dying left and right. I didn't know who was dying. I didn't know who was still with me. And yeah, just by some miracle, this guy happened to come out of that alive, and I am not gonna take my second chance for granted, so I wanna get this repotted ASAP. The last anthurium on this list is one that I actually don't really know why it's been so awful to me, considering roots are healthy and It's pest free. It's very, very strange. So this is my Anthurium crystallinum. This is a really heavy pot. This is an Anthurium crystallinum silver special. And I got this as an offset from Lauren. I did an import video at her shops a couple months ago where I unboxed some of her imports and kind of showed you, like, I think it was like my 10 favorites from that batch. And I showed a few of the crystallinum silver specials that she got, and I was just like in love with it. I think the crystal black is still my favorite form of crystallinum, but the silver special is like a close second just because of how silvery it gets when it gets bigger. I do think it's one of the Anthurium that Tropicals Plants has named that actually lives up to what it looks like. But yeah, like, look at it. It's just, it's so yellow. It's super yellow. It's always been in drainage holes. It's in a wait, I think this is a soilless medium. I think this is the same substrate that I got it from Lauren. And like, look at the roots. It's so healthy. I don't get it. I really don't. So I'm kind of like hesitant to move it because the roots look so good, but then it's like clearly something's not happy about this plant. I don't know, you guys. I'm actually quite stumped with this. I don't really know what to do yet. I think I'm gonna just kind of wing it when we get there. Okay, finally, some non-Anthurium. So next one is my Ficus shiveriana. I think the last time I showed this plant was in a collab video with Alice. It was the Who Grows It Better. And yeah, I really haven't given much attention to this thing, and it's been kind of a good grower for me. It's got a new leaf on the way. It did get kind of stuck in the cataphyll, which is why it looks a little warped like that. This is one where I thought, okay, one, I thought it was gonna die shortly after I got it, and two, I thought I might tire of it just because, I don't know, for me, variegated plants, the variegation is not enough to keep me interested for a long period of time. Like, pretty much all of my favorite plants in my collection are non-variegated plants, so I'm really not too easily enticed by a variegated plant. And so I thought that this was one that maybe I would want to own for a little bit and then get it out of my system and then I just give it away or something. But I actually really enjoy it. I like seeing it. I think it's like a nice break to the rest of the plants on this shelf. But one thing that we did mention in that video is how thirsty it is. I mean, it doesn't help that it's in the tiniest pot in pond, no less. Anything in pond, no matter if it's in no drainage, it's gonna dry out super fast. So I do want to maybe try and get this in a pot like 2 sizes bigger. I don't want to go just like 1 size bigger because I do think it's gonna fill out right away pretty much. And I want to see some growth on this thing. I don't know where it would ever go once it's bigger, but this is one where my goal is to see it become a lot bigger. I thought before it would be nice to just keep it as this little tiny bush and always have it be like this tiny bush, but I go back to sort of my original love with the rubber tree, and I really do love like those big rubbery shiny leaves, and it would be so cool to see it as like a tree form, this as like a tree form, especially if I can get some like really nice variegation on it, like this guy down here with little sectoral patches. I obviously don't mind the like mottled look almost, but it's really cool when you do get these little splooches of sectoral variegation. So anyway, I do want to size this one up because it's just needed something for like the longest time. Third to last is a plant that you saw recently. I featured this in a video last week, my Hoya callistophila. I don't know what is up with this. It's kind of funny because when you look at it on screen, it doesn't look like it's super sad, but if you look at it super closely, especially in person, you can just see how awful it looks. Everything looks shriveled. Normally these leaves are like so like firm and so thick and juicy, and right now they're just like nothing. There is no moisture in this plant whatsoever, and I'm surprised that like the leaves haven't completely yellowed. I don't know if that's a testament to like the resilience and how strong Hoyas can be when they are deprived of water, or if maybe it's a combination of that and the fact that this has been inoculated with mycorrhizal inoculants. And myco is supposed to make your plants more resistant to drought and things like that. So I did show you guys in that video that the roots are healthy. There are new roots in here. I don't really see why it wouldn't be uptaking any of the water, but I'm gonna do something kind of spooky today, and I think I'm just gonna reroot it. I think I'm gonna chop off all of the roots. I think I'm gonna get into water or like some kind of like large dome of some sort and try and reroot it. Once I can get a little bit of roots on it, I think I'm gonna move it to soil. Obviously, it's done fine in pond up to this point, but I don't know. I'm almost feeling like maybe it just needs to be in soil. Pretty much all of my Hoyas are in pond, but I'm willing to try anything. So yeah, this one is gonna be chopped up today and maybe even like downsized a little in terms of like how long some of the stems are. I think it'll be easier to reroot with less leaves on it, but yeah, I am kind of sad because I did like how bushy it was becoming. This architrellus is holding on for dear life. This one I'm kind of nervous about. I've been putting this off for like an eternity, like way too long. I don't even know why it's still alive, but my Hoya Serpent Splash, you can kind of see that we have a little bit of trouble now, and I don't know if it's because maybe this moss is just like too acidic now or what. I haven't like tested anything, but it's yellowing at a very, very, very rapid pace. And I want to just try and save it or save what I can. So we're going to get it out of here. My thought is to do soil just because I find that the transfer from moss to soil is a bit easier. I might try and chop up a little bit of moss, brand new moss, and disperse it in the soil so that it has something a little bit more familiar. But yeah, this is not working anymore. And then I have to move you back for the last one, I think. All right, I think you're far enough. The sun is creeping on me, and you guys, I am sweating. I am so hot. My philodendron soderini, which you also would have seen in a video last week. This one is not a rehab or anything. This one just needs to be chopped. So it's been a while since the last chop I gave it, but since then it has done so well. As you can see, she is a thing of freaking beauty. I love this plant so much. It's already on a double pole right now, so the plan is to chop it where the second pole starts, and then I'm just gonna, don't do that motion, I'm just gonna pluck it off and get it repotted because I already have like a good amount of roots in here. Yeah, that's easy. That's an easy peasy one, I hope. It does have a new leaf on the way, but this plant always has a new leaf on the way, so I'm never really gonna find a time to chop it when nothing is happening with the plant. So anyways, you guys, that is the frickin' roster for today. It's gonna be, I want to say it's going to be a long one, but for some reason I feel like maybe it'll go by fast. So I do have quite a few movies to get through. I'm going to only talk for as long as it takes me to repot these plants. So if I have to continue it in a second part this month, that's what I'm going to do. But anyway, I was going to do like a whole setup. You know, when I do like my big black table, I was going to get it all set up over here, but I'm freaking lazy. So what we're actually gonna do is I'm gonna just take you over to the kitchen and I'm gonna repot on my kitchen counter because it's just easier to do it that way. My drink today actually looks kind of spooky. So it's ginger ale with some frozen raspberries, an ice cube that's way too big, and then little chunks of fiber. So I've been taking these like Benefiber packs because I know for sure I am not getting enough fiber in my diet. But it didn't dissolve very well in this little concoction, but it's delicious. It tastes like nothing, which is great. I feel like all the other fiber supplements that I've used before, it's just like, it just tastes so nasty that I just won't even drink it. But this is the first one that I'm like, oh yeah, it tastes nothing. Like I could literally put it in water and it tastes like nothing. Anyway, as I was setting up, I totally forgot to mention in the intro that my merch comes out on Friday. So yeah. That's it. It comes out on Friday. I'm gonna have, there's really not very many styles available. There's like essentially 2 styles, but like they're, how do I say this? 2 major styles, and then one of the styles is kind of just like, it's just on the front, or it has double-sided, or it just, yeah. I'm not saying this very well. But I didn't want to go too heavy on the designs for the first run just because this one is very like Halloween spooky theme. I do have other designs that I have been wanting to do, I just didn't know how to execute it. And I don't think that I'm gonna be having like merch drops where it's like a huge line of designs. I think I'm just gonna, now that I have a supplier, now that I have a website through the supplier, I'm just gonna add designs whenever I feel like it. But anyway, yeah, so that comes out on Friday. They ship worldwide. My observation is that it ships to the States much faster than international because they are based in the States. They do have like, I think they have like manufacturers, or they have like warehouses in other countries, but the US is gonna be the fastest because that's where they're based. I am super, super, super happy with the quality of it. It is exactly what I wanted. It's exactly what I was looking for in a shirt. So this is a good example. I don't know if you guys can tell. So this shirt's just from like Shein or something, but like this one has a very like plasticky kind of like, I mean, obviously I've washed it multiple times and it hasn't like faded or anything, but I don't really like shirts like this where it's almost like there's like a sticker on it. This one, it feels like it's like woven into the shirt. It's really, really nice. I opted for styles that had a larger size range, that were softer and had sort of a more like loose, airy, and almost like vintage feel to it. Not a vintage, but like a worn feel to it. So yeah, Friday the 13th, it will drop at 10 a.m. when my video goes up. So, sorry, there's a hair stuck in here. Obviously, I usually have a video that goes up on Saturdays, but since Friday is gonna be the drop, I'm going to release the video a day early. So anywho, that's that. I'm gonna just start unpotting now, but we're gonna get straight into today's repot and chat topic, and that is a list of my favorite scary movies. Now, I wanna preface this by saying that there are going to be very minor spoilers. I'm not gonna get into like basically what happens. Like, I'm not gonna like spoil the ending, but I am going to talk a bit about like the premise of the movie, different parts of the movies that I really enjoyed and that I liked. If you had any intention of watching any of these movies, I will give you a list of them. If you look at the description of this movie, it'll give you a list of the ones I'm going in depth about. So, and I'll also put timestamps when I stop talking about that movie, so that if you had an intention of watching it this month, that I don't spoil anything for you. And you can just like watch whatever part of this video that you want. Anyway, like I mentioned, I had a hard time kind of deciding which movies I wanted to add to this list. And I don't know, it's such a hard question for me. It's almost like when someone says like, what's your favorite song? Like, I don't have a favorite song. I have a million favorite songs, all for different reasons, but I tried my hardest, okay? And I have a list here. I have my little notes. So I have 6 movies of note that I want to talk about in depth, and then I have like just a handful. Oh no, I have a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 12 honorable mentions. So the 6 I'll go in depth about, and I don't want to hear it, okay? We all have our different reasons for liking movies. I'm not a freaking movie critic, although I really, really, like, who are movie critics? Like, you know, people who are like legit movie critics, or like they're Rotten Tomato critics. Like, have these people like directed movies before? Like, do they have award-winning movies? Like, what gives them so much power to decide whether a movie is good or bad? Because as I was putting this list together, I was like so surprised at some of the ratings that some of them got. And I was reading some like Rotten Tomato reviews from like top critics, and I'm just like, that is baloney. You don't know anything, okay? So anyway, and all that to say, I'm not a movie critic. very rarely do I watch like a movie in general and I can read between the lines and like get that deeper meaning or that deeper message right away. Like very often I have to like read about it later and be like, oh, that's what it meant. I'm just talking about like surface level stuff, production, acting, the plot, okay? Don't expect anything crazy from me. So I'm gonna start at, and I'm just gonna say least favorite, but obviously it's one of my favorites, but I wanna go from the one that I enjoyed. I guess that's not how I wanna say it. I have 6 movies in depth that I'm gonna talk to you about. Number 6 is like the bottom of that list, and then number 1 is like the top of my list. Why is it taking me so long to just like explain the simplest things right now? So the first movie on my list is It Chapter 1. And this is from 2017. Yeah, I can definitely see where things have gone awry in here, but I can see some nice brand new roots, which is good. I like to see a mix of both. If this is not common knowledge, the It movie is categorized as like a supernatural horror film. It's an adaptation of Stephen King's novel from 1986. And then it's a second adaptation of the miniseries that came out in 1990. Quickly, if you guys watched that miniseries back in 1990, I would say that watching it as a child was pretty scary, mostly just because of the nature of this like scary clown chasing kids around and, you know, whatever he was doing to them. So I think anything that you would have watched as a kid like that is scary, but it kind of reminds me of like how when I was a kid and I watched The Exorcist for the first time, oh my gosh, you guys, I had nightmares. I didn't sleep in my own room for months after that. I was traumatized. I was so freaking scared. I found Jesus. I turned to Jesus to protect me, okay? But I just thought it was the most terrifying movie ever. And for a long time, even up until I would say like my young adult life, like when people ask like, you know, what's like a classic scary movie that you love? Like I would have just said The Exorcist, like, yeah, hands down. That was one that like traumatized me as a kid. But I watched it within the last 10 years and it was like watching a comedy. It was like watching a comedy. Like, you know, obviously they did the best they could with special effects and stuff, but like there are just so many parts to it where I'm just like, how on earth did I find that scary? Like, first off, this chick's makeup looks so bad. It looks so unreal. And there are just parts to it that are just purely comical, where there was not one part of that movie that I found scary at all. And I'm just like, is this the same movie that I watched? Like, how could this be the same? There's no freaking way. So it's kind of like that. Like when I rewatched the miniseries, I was like, okay, it's not scary. It's not scary. But, you know, obviously as a child, it would have been terrifying. And I think I was talking to Vince a couple years ago, and I think he said that, hopefully I'm remembering this right, but I think he said that he was pretty traumatized by it for a long time when he was a kid. Like he found it to be very, very scary. So yeah, in that sense, like, you know, people are always like, oh, but it's not as good as the original. No way. The remake of this movie is so good. And it has very Stranger Things vibes, which is what I love about it. The remake was set in the 1980s. I think it was like the late 1980s. And generally I just love, I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm an 80s baby, barely. I was born in 89. I just love movies that are set in this time. And so I just enjoyed the overall sort of like feeling of that movie. I don't know if it was like the set, don't know if it was the props or like the costumes or what, but I just love, it just gives you that, like, I know it's a horror movie, but it just gives you that like good feeling. I don't know why. It's like when I watch any kind of movie, whether it's scary or like romance or whatever, and it's set in a small town, you guys, my heart just flutters. I love anything set in a small town. I've always had this dream. I don't know if it's still my dream, but I've always like wanted to like live in one of those like dusty towns where like you walk a dirt path down to, you know, the local post office or the local market, and then I don't know, it just seems so charming. So anyway, yeah, this it was set in a town called Derry. Sorry, another thing that I want to preface, and my sisters know this and she thinks it's like so annoying, but I am just fascinated, absolutely fascinated, like knowing where movies were filmed. I don't know why I have this like deep fascination with it. If I'm watching a movie, I have to Google and find out where it was filmed. I just have to. And I think it's again my obsession with like small towns. And you know, if you're not watching a movie that's set in like a big city, like a lot of these like little small towns, like they just have so much charm, and I just want to know where they are. So this movie was filmed in 2 places. So it was filmed in Port Hope in Maine, and I've always wanted to go to Maine. Don't ask me why. Yeah, it's filmed in Maine and then also in Ontario, Canada. Fun fact, a lot of movies, shows, and things are filmed in Canada. I think it has something to do with not only one, like the amazing scenery, you know, there's like you can get the city, you can get the mountain, you can get rural areas. Like there's just so much in Canada that can offer for like a movie or a TV production or something. But also I think labor cost is cheaper because international currency is a lot stronger than Canadian currency, which is kind of sad. Anyway, my serpens is unearthed now. I am very scared about this thing. I am expecting a few to drop, but at the rate that it's yellowing, it's like, I like there's no point in me trying to continue growing it in that medium. Okay, so the basis of this movie is essentially there's like a killer clown that comes back he's an ancient killer clown that comes back every 27 years from who knows where, and he just preys on children. Saying it aloud doesn't make me sound like a great person, but yeah, that's basically what the movie is. The reason that I loved the remake of this one specifically is, one, Bill Skarsgård, hopefully I'm saying his name right, he is absolutely brilliant for this movie. Oh my gosh, they could not have casted a better Pennywise. No offense to Bill, but he's just like, this is so mean. He's kind of like naturally creepy. I bet he's a great guy. Like I bet he's so nice, but there's something about him, like he just does the creepiness so well. And yeah, I thought he was the perfect Pennywise. His smile, that Pennywise smile, that's all him, dude. That's not like CGI or anything. Like he can just do that, and it's crazy. So Bill Skarsgård was like number 1 for me. Like I was just like, I'm so happy that they casted him for this movie. Number 2, I thought it was like wildly entertaining. The cast is so good. People like Finn Wolfhard is in it, which also from Stranger Things. And I just thought that they casted each of the kids so perfectly. Like they each have their own little quirk about them that just as a group, I'm like, this is the dream team. This is it. And the humor in that movie, like it's good. Like I don't know, I rarely find comedy movies like genuinely funny. Like the funny that my kind of funny is like The Office or like Napoleon Dynamite. I know that's kind of stupid, but I was surprised at how well they did the like comedic aspects of this movie. I just felt like it was inserted at the right times. Not every character was funny. There were just some funny characters, and then some characters, like they were quirky in a way that made them super funny, but not like intentionally funny, just kind of like cute funny. That's another reason why I liked this movie. Like I can't even begin to tell you guys how obsessed I am with this movie. Like I have watched every single behind the scenes clip, every blooper, every how it was made, like video on it ever. Like I've read every article, I've watched every interview. I'm just obsessed with this movie, and it's one of those movies that I just put on in the background as like my like happy feel good movie. Like even if I'm home alone and I'm like cooking, or cleaning, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put on it. That's just, it's a perfect vibe. I'm not gonna say that like this is the scariest movie of all time. It's really not. There aren't any scenes from this movie that I would say as an adult made me like look over my shoulder or like made me lose sleep at night, but there are scenes in it that are just genuinely creepy, and I think that's what makes a good scary movie. I think a lot of critics are like super harsh on horror films because it's like, if it doesn't make you shit your pants, then it's bad. Now, as an adult, like you see this clown and like, you know it's not real. Well, history will contradict that, considering there was a clown. But meaning, you don't watch this as an adult and think like, this is a very real thing that could happen to me, that this ancient clown is just gonna like rise from hell or rise wherever it came from and like track me down and want to unalive me. So in that way, yeah, like it's not gonna like scare like the daylights out of you. But I thought they did the scares really well. I thought that they incorporated a good amount of just like almost not fantasy, but these like nightmarish kind of scenes with real life. You're being chased by this clown. Like, I just thought there was a good mix of it. Yeah, I didn't think it was like absolutely terrifying, but I thought it was really good. This movie got an 86% on Rotten. I don't judge a book by its Rotten score just because I disagree with so many of them. But I just wanted to mention it anyway, just for people who are curious on what the Rotten score was. But it got an 86. Not too bad. I would say from what I've read, two of the main criticisms that people had for this movie was that one, it only relied on jump scares for the scary parts, which, I mean, I guess to a certain degree I agree with, but like when you have a movie that's based on this clown that has come back to unalive you, it's not like a ghost movie where like you hear like bumps in the night, or you know what I mean, like a closet door swings open and you're just like left to wonder what it could be. It's like a lot of the scary parts are when this clown is physically around and like actually chasing them. And I don't know, I thought there were, yeah, definitely some parts with jump scares, but there were some parts that were just like really creepy. Like there's one part where here's a spoiler. There's one point where one character who has, this guy has asthma, he's like a mama's boy, he's on his way back home from like hanging out with his friends. He passes like the old house where allegedly this clown used to live, and he starts hearing voices, and then over in the distance on the property, like it's like a bunch of tall grass, and he sees Pennywise, and Pennywise is like holding, I think it was like, from what I can remember, like a bunch of balloons, like a bunch of red balloons in front of him. And then like they either like pop and then he's just like right there, and then suddenly he's just like chasing him. Like I thought that was scary. It wasn't necessarily a jump scare. It kind of had like a lead up to it, but I don't know. I wouldn't really call that a criticism. Like when you make a horror movie, like yeah, I would say a good aspect of it is being like scared in the moment and having those like little jumps, right? Another criticism that people had was that it was just too rushed. There wasn't enough like character development because the cast was so large. There were so many kids in this little group. And I agree that I think every one of them had such a significant role in the movie. Like, you know, when you have like a group of people that are supposed to be like the main characters, it's almost like some of them get more attention and some of them get overshadowed. I didn't quite feel like that with this group. I felt like a connection to every person in the group, even though it was a larger group. And so yeah, like kind of trying to compile it all and each of their fears, because that's what Pennywise feeds off of, are their fears, and he knows what their individual fears are. It did, I guess, seem a bit, not rushed, but like it could have been elaborated on more. But I think for what they did, I thought it was fine. But they were saying that they probably would have enjoyed it more if it was another mini series or just like a series in general, kind of like Stranger Things. So, and I think maybe out of selfishness, I agree with that, because I would have loved to have this whole movie as like a drawn out series where I could have more substance, right? Rather than just all packing it into like a 2-hour video. But I thought for it being a movie, I thought they did great. This Chia Presents, Vera Presents is like jam packed into here. Jam freaking packed, and I'm scared of breaking some of these nice juicy roots. I think this plant would have been way bigger by now if I had moved it out of this rinky-dinky little thing a lot sooner. So that was my number 6 pick. Number 5, ironically, is The Sixth Sense. So this one is another supernatural, psychological supernatural film. In my opinion, I think this was probably M. Night Shyamalan's best movie. At least for me. I think over the course of his career, he's definitely had some weird ones or some definite flops. But to me, this was just like peak M. Night Shyamalan. Like I enjoyed it so much. This one features Bruce Willis, Toni Collette, Olivia Williams, and Haley Joel Osment. I thought the cast was amazing. I think Toni Collette particularly, I really enjoyed her in this movie. I mean, I think most people would agree that she's like an incredible actress, but in this one, she just did the whole single mom, like terrified single mom thing so well. Yeah, she was brilliant in it. Going back to the filming location, so this one was filmed in Philadelphia. This one didn't quite seem as like small town. It definitely felt like they were more in like a city, but I do like how overall the movie is super like muted and gloomy, almost like, imagine like Twilight, but not as sort of like muted. I don't like when movies try and portray that sort of feeling of like chilliness and gloom to the point where there's like absolutely no color in the film. Honestly, I should have added this to my list. Silent Hill could be an example of that, and really I would add this to my list now looking back. If you watch that movie, it's like very almost black and white, like no color, no bright colors on any of the costumes, any of the props, any of the set. Like it's very muted, and it does give you that super eerie feeling. But I thought that they did it well. I do think that there are some movies where it's just edited to look a little bit too like doom and gloom, to the point where it's a little bit forced. So I thought this movie did it well because it's still enough color in it to like make it seem like it's not overly like processed, overly edited. But you know, they never really film on like any sunny days. It's always like kind of an overcast, gloomy day, and I don't know. I thought it was filmed and edited really nicely. If you don't know what the premise of this movie is, it's basically Bruce Willis plays a child psychologist who ends up with a patient, a child patient, which is played by Haley Joel Osment. And basically this kid says that he can talk to and see ghosts. Oh my god, that raspberry is so sour. Okay, making my eyes water. I thought this movie had a very good balance of, where is the root system? There is basically no root system. This movie has, in my opinion, a good mix of just like creepiness throughout the plot in different scenes, dispersed with a nice healthy amount of jump scares. I remember watching this as a kid and being like absolutely like numbingly freaked out, specifically at and another spoiler is coming up. There's a scene where Haley Joel Osment, he's in his house and he starts like seeing and hearing this, I think it was like a little boy. I think it was a little boy like walking through like the hallway, and he kept getting glimpses of it. And of course, he like, you know, kind of gets closer to it. He starts getting freaked out more. So he runs into this little tent that he's created. And it's like this makeshift tent fort in his bedroom, but it's like with red fabric. And out of fear, he runs into the tent and he hears what I believe is like crying. And then there's like this little girl that just like appears like in the tent, and she's like foaming at the mouth and she's like sobbing. And that was like, to me, I thought that was like a jump scare that they did really well. And I remember being so effing scared in that scene. Yeah, it just like, it kind of scarred me for a few weeks after that. But then it has like these elements to it that actually kind of contribute to the plot and offers more than just like this guy is, or this boy is being haunted or whatever. You know, he, again, going back to that scene in the tent, he realizes that it's a sign from this past spirit of like a girl who essentially wants like justice, like something had been done to her as a kid and she wanted to get justice for it in the present. So she kind of leads him down this path to essentially is what is her death caught on, not her actual death, but what caused her death caught on camera. And you know, the boy and Bruce Willis, they both show up at the funeral, and he goes through the girl's room, of course, like never met her, has no idea who she is, finds this videotape and shows it to the dad, and like the truth comes out. And I just thought like those little aspects of the movie was just like such a nice touch. I don't know, I really enjoyed it because it kind of brought like some like emotional factor to it too. It wasn't just like a scary movie, it kind of like drew on your emotions. And another thing that I really liked about this movie, oh my gosh, the little flower thing is like seeping out this like sap and it's like dripping. Do you see it? Okay, so yeah, I do think that this is like one of those movies that, in my opinion, did the plot twist thing really well. I think a lot of movies in general, primarily like horror movies, they do these plot twists that I'm just like, why? Why'd you do that? That was not necessary, that was dumb. But I thought that this plot twist was like perfect. When I first watched it, and you know, granted, I was really young when I watched it, but I certainly didn't see it coming. And I remember watching it with my parents and my dad being like super surprised too at the end. And like, I just thought they did it really well. I see so much Osmocote in this pond. I wonder if it has something to do with that. The thing is though, is I haven't been adding any slow release to my pond. And now I'm trying to think of when the last time I repotted this was. I feel like I've already gotten rid of so much of my killer pond. So that's something that me and Alice refer to, because when we first started using slow release fertilizer, we were just like, oh my God, we went so heavy on it. We're like, yeah, you get fertilizer and you get fertilizer. And we didn't realize that it was heat activated. And so, you know, we'd have these plants that were in greenhouses that were just like sitting on top of heat mats or sitting on top of grow lights, and was just getting a lot of heat in general. And it was like essentially causing all of these slow release fertilizers to hatch. And yeah, everything just started dying because it was getting over fertilized. And I could just see so much in here. I have not seen a batch of pond with so much fertilizer. So that could very well be why this thing has died, but we're gonna cut off the roots. We're gonna start over again. But yeah, I'm surprised. It must have been living in this little vessel for a really long time, because it's been more than a year since I've used Killer Pond. So I don't know what's up with that, unless I use like an old batch of pond or something. I don't know what the heck I did. Sorry, anyway, going back to The Sixth Sense, I don't think that, like I don't think that this is a movie that's gonna like scare the living crap out of you. Like, I don't think you're gonna like shat yourself. But I feel like you can't deny that there are scenes that are really spooky. They're really scary. Not even just the jump scare ones. Like, it's just, you know, it's scary, okay? I wouldn't consider myself a chicken, but I feel like if the things that happened in this movie happened to the average person, they would definitely be spooked. Like walking into your kitchen and all your like drawers and whatever are open when they were closed just a second ago. Like you can't say if that happened to you, you'd just be like, oh, whatever.
It's probably just a draft.
So I give that movie the credit that it deserves. I thought it was great. I thought it was scary for all the right reasons. I feel like that it was definitely a hair raiser, which to me, that's all I want. I don't need to be traumatized by a movie. If something can just give me the creeps, that's a success for me. That is a good movie in my book. Before I untangle this, let me just undo the Pap Wonder Boy. Okay, looking at my notes, it got an 86% on Rotten, and most of the critics were saying that it was boring. I didn't think it was boring. The scares were too cliche. It just was not scary at all. The plot wasn't original, and the plot twist was lacking. Again, everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but who are these critics? Who are you? Whoa. I don't agree with a lot of it. I'm kind of bummed that I think that I'm gonna have to snap off some of these roots because I don't think it's gonna come out in one push. I'm scared. I'm scared. Okay, we're gonna do this nice and gentle. I don't mind losing some roots, but if I can save the majority of them, that's gonna be my preference, obviously. Oh my gosh, this thing has so much algae. This is one thing I really hate about growing with drainage holes, is like the breaking of the roots when you go to repot. Again, not the end of the world. I root trim all the time, but that's like, whatchamacallit, voluntary. Ew, a fungus gnat is just crawling on me like I am its mother. You guys, what is this spooky, nasty, disgusting? Do you want me to adopt you? Oh look, she came out. Okay, just gotta get this guy out. I don't know why he doesn't want to come out. I have the urge to smell it. I don't know why. It smells like nothing. It's fine. Okay, the next one I'm gonna talk about, and I think some people are gonna disagree, but I think it's the generation that I grew up in, and that is the Final Destination franchise. I know that of all the brilliant, scary movies out there, some of you are probably like, why? Why would you add that to the list? I feel like it's such a toss-up of who you talk to. People either think that the Final Destination series or Final Destination franchise is like the most brilliant thing ever created, and some are just like, yeah, that should have never gone into production. And I'm definitely on the side of it being one of the greats. Again, I think it could be the generation I grew up in. It's just, you know, it was coming out when I was like a teenager and stuff. And it was just such a, I don't know, I thought it was so good. If you have not heard of the Final Destination franchise, there's a couple. I think there's like 6 movies out in the franchise, 5 or 6. I've seen them all, of course. It's a supernatural, not psychological. It's just a supernatural horror film. And it's essentially about a group of people who cheat death because in this like catastrophic event that's gonna happen, there's one person that like has this vision of what's gonna happen before it happens, and then they manage to like save a bunch of people through it, sometimes inadvertently. And even though that they managed to escape that one, you know, catastrophic event, the whole rest of the movie is basically them outrunning death. And I just thought that this concept was really original. I don't know, I could be wrong, but up until that point, I had never watched a movie that had this premise. Now, maybe this is why it got such mixed reviews, or I should say bad reviews. A lot of the scenarios that these people find themselves in are so outlandish, so wild, so insane, but I can't even begin to tell you how many of those scenes in this franchise are like my favorite. The sun tanning booth scene, the roller coaster scene, the logging scene, the truck logging truck scene. Guys, like, come on, there are so many iconic scenes from those movies that I'm just like, how could you not love it? How? And yeah, like at some points it's so outlandish and wild and far-fetched that it almost becomes comical, but it's still such an entertaining movie to watch. Like, no matter how like crazy each scenario got, where like death is trying to like get this one person, I'm just like, yeah, that was great, that was good. So anyway, I'm very messy here. Everything is unpotted. What I'm gonna do is clean up a little bit, and then I was gonna just throw these in the shower, but since I'm filming, I don't wanna wait for it to dry, so I'm just gonna spray it on camera and just wipe down, since the plants are not huge. Oh my gosh, my soda-rainy. How about, okay, I'm gonna put aside some of these. Oh, I haven't even chopped my clothes to fill it. You guys, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay, let's take a break on talking about the movies, and we're just gonna start chopping. So here's the main plant. This is like the majority of where the plant is. It's on this stem. I don't know if I need one this long. This second one doesn't even look very alive, so I'm gonna chop here and just remove this. And then I'm gonna remove maybe, I don't know why I've been singing the Muffin Man song recently. Then I'm gonna chop here, whatever. I don't know if I'm just gonna chuck this. I don't think that anyone is really wanting to buy this plant right now. I think Lauren was just giving these away as freebies, so I'm not really gonna bother with that. But I think that this is gonna be a good enough one to like re-trellis, like something like that, or because I still want like a somewhat of a full plant. I didn't want to start over with like nothing, but like that's pretty good. I probably could like afford to chop off even a bit more, but maybe I won't. Okay, let's just leave this for now. I don't think you guys are gonna be able to see like a majority of what's gonna be happening in the next few minutes because the plant is so big. Sorry, I'm so hungry. And Vince just bought me these white cheddar cheeses. These are my favorite. I feel like one thing that I don't like about this whole like chopping and then removing the top is that you are literally severing off not only the stem, but like the root system that's going all the way down. So you are gonna lose a bit of roots, but I do feel like there's enough maybe at the top to sustain it. I don't really feel like unearthing the whole thing. Although I guess I could. It kind of defeats the purpose of making these stackable poles so easy, because truly you are supposed to just like chop and then plop back in. But I have a hard time letting go of like all these roots that are going down to the bottom. So I think what I'm gonna do is remove, okay, it's gonna be so messy. I think I'm gonna pop open this bottom one and release all of the roots that are in here, and I'll try and remove as much as I can, because I think that I just wanna like maybe sell this plant as it is at the bottom. Like just sell it as like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like a 6, 7 leaf plant. I don't know. Okay. Sorry, I'm really hungry and I have to film another video after this. All of this crap is gonna fall off. It's fine, I need to clean my floors anyway. Vince is in Edmonton. Sorry, Lauren and Alice are texting in the group chat. Vince is in Edmonton right now with his mom. So I think it's okay to talk about this. I haven't quite talked to Vince about it yet, but I feel like now that things are kind of like settled and we're kind of past the phase of like the unknown, I can talk about it. Obviously I'll, let me just call him right now actually, just to make sure. He's with his siblings right now, so he's just gonna quickly run it by them, see if it's okay. Cause I did want to talk to you guys about this. I just wasn't sure like when the right time would be. Okay, I don't know if I should wet this first. because I think if it's wet, it won't crumble, but can you guys tell I'm not feeling very confident in this right now? I don't know how to get it out of here. I want to remove as much of this substrate as possible. You guys are probably like screaming at me right now, like, do it this way, but you guys, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I'm just trying to do this the easiest way, and I don't want to, like, I don't really want to unpot it from here, but I guess I could too. Oh my Lanta, oh my Lanta. Okay, how about we just, yeah, let's get it, oh no. No, it's too late now. I've gone too far. So I just want to save, like, see this root right here is one that I want to grab. Look at that nice pink juicy root. And that is the extent of what I can see from the roots that have come from the top. So now I feel better about cutting it. So now I'm gonna cut, I'm gonna try and do it so you guys can actually see what the heck I'm doing. I think I'll cut right, that's not attached to it, is it? No. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna chop right here. And that is out. I've got some roots right here that I wanna try and snake through the front. Oh, that one goes pretty deep. That's what she said. That is what I wanted, basically. I just wanted to get as much of this root system as possible. So let's set this aside. Oh, it's dusty. Okay, so now this is ready to be planted into the bottom. I think I might, I'm almost thinking about chopping these two leaves off so that I can submerge it into the pot deeper. And I don't want this to rot inside of the substrate, so I'm gonna remove this. And yeah, now this is just ready to be repotted. So now that this is separated, I think that I can, I don't even know if anyone is gonna wanna buy this. You guys, I'm gonna have to think about this. I'm gonna leave this as it is. I'm not gonna do anything to it because I don't know if I'm selling, Okay, now I can clean up and start pest treating. Going on a quick tangent from our spooky movie list, and I don't think that this is the appropriate video to talk about it in, but I really don't think that there's gonna be like the perfect time. But I kind of alluded to this familial situation that was going on in my life a couple weeks ago. Now this is one of what feels like many familial situations. This is not the one where I said that there's like legal things involved and I can't speak about it. That I still can't talk about. I will though. Just you wait, you guys. I'm just waiting for my my day of reckoning. By the way, I'm wearing gloves because there is alcohol in here. So this is 99% alcohol, tea tree and peppermint castile soap. And I'm just using this for spider mites. So I don't want my poor cuticles that are already so like they're just hanging on for dear life. I just don't want my hands to dry out even more than they already are. I wash my hands excessively throughout the day because of a legitimate OCD that I have. No, I don't just throw that word out just to throw it out. I have clinically diagnosed OCD, so don't even come for me about that. I've had a few people that are like, stop using the word OCD when you don't have OCD. Girl, you don't know me. Anyway, so this situation, I got the okay from Vince's family to talk about it, but Vince's mom was recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So during the COVID, pandemic, she was essentially all alone. She's immunocompromised. She has RA, which is rheumatoid arthritis, and she's at high risk for, contracting infections that could be life-threatening. So throughout COVID, and we hated that we had to do this, but we essentially isolated ourselves from her too. And she really did not see anyone anymore. And we just think that that was so bad for her mental health. But throughout the last few years, she's had little inklings of just like forgetfulness, and she's like voiced to us that she gets so frustrated with her memory and how she can't seem to get her words out. And for a long time, we just kind of chalk that up to like age or the fact that she doesn't really socialize all that often anymore in person. But there were a few situations that happened over like the last year or two that were just like super, super, super alarming. Just like forgetting directions. Like, you know, she had lived in the same city for decades, and she came to visit us once, or she was gonna visit us, and she just got completely lost. She had no idea where she was. She ended up like 3 cities away, and my brother-in-law had to go find her and rescue her, basically. So that was scary. You know, things like hallucinations, like she was seeing people in her bed. She said that there was like an old woman like laying in her bed and stuff. So things like this that were just like really, really alarming, and just like kind of the normal thing, like repeating herself, repeating stories that she had literally just told us. But it wasn't until the last few months where we're like, okay, something is wrong, to the point where we were concerned that she could have like a tumor, because we're like, this is weird. Like, one day she was mom, and then the next day it's like she doesn't even like know what day it is. Like, it was really scary. And so she's been living in Edmonton with my in-laws there, and it's just been hard on them, you know, like her personality has changed so much. They're getting into like a lot of arguments, whereas my mother-in-law, she's just really like, she's a woman of God. She's so gentle natured, doesn't cuss, like she's just so like just not that kind of person to be confrontational or be hostile or whatever. And she was just showing all of these traits that were just like not like her. So we, like, long story short, we finally got the diagnosis of Alzheimer's, and it's very likely that this was like a slow progression, and now it's just like full on Alzheimer's. And we tried the in-home nurse thing. We had nighttime care. My mother-in-law was visiting here for a month, and you guys, like, our world was upside down. Vince had to basically live with my brother-in-law for a month to stay with her. He had to take work off because just like can't like leave her alone, you know, like she'll try and break out of the house or just do things like change out of her clothes, or she doesn't know if it's night or day. Like, it's like really scary how much it's progressed, and it's taken a big like emotional toll on our family. And I'm gonna try to not cry about it because it's not what I wanted to do in this video, but it's been a lot. And I just really feel for anyone who's experienced like a loved one that has gone through Alzheimer's, because it's like, you know, you feel like you're just like losing them. And I'm gonna stop talking about this now because yeah, I'm still kind of like an emotional wreck about it. So she's in a care home now in Edmonton for her safety, for my family's safety. You know, we had like long discussions about it, and we felt like it was the best thing for her. Anyone going through the same thing, if there's any advice that I could give you, because this has been like absolutely a life-changing, brain chemical changing experience for me, and something that I have literally been so upfront with my parents about like having a plan, and like if this were to ever happen to them, like we need to know what the plan is in advance, because diseases like this can like break a family apart. I promise you it can. Like, people you think like have the strongest bonds, it all goes to hell. So my advice to you is, if you have healthy parents or grandparents right now, like, make sure you guys talk to your family members about what the plan is. Know if there's enough money to cover in-home care, nursing home care. Like, just be prepared. And I know it's such a a weird thing to prepare for because you don't really even want to think that that's going to happen to one of your loved ones. But I'm telling you, when you're in it and you're just kind of trying to deal with things on the fly as it's happening, it's so hard. So anyway, yeah, so that's that. Vince is in Edmonton right now visiting mom because, you know, he's just trying to spend as much time with her as he can while she's still, and this is just being honest, while she still like remembers him. She's had a few moments where she's forgotten who people are. It eventually comes back, but like we see hints of it and it's really terrifying. And so yeah, it's just been a really hard time for our family on top of the other thing that we're dealing with. But yeah, he's gonna be traveling pretty often. I think he wants to try and visit her like every month, which, you know, obviously I don't like him being away, but it's just kind of what's necessary. And I would, if it was my mom, I would 100% do the same. So anywho, that's that. Yeah, so Vince is not here and I don't know why. I don't even know why I mentioned why Vince wasn't here. I think I was gonna say something like, Vince isn't here, so I'm like filming all day and then I'm gonna like watch a scary movie tonight. I don't know, why was I even talking about that, you guys? It's so annoying. Anyway, okay, let's move on to the next movie. Sorry, that was just like, that tangent was way too serious for this movie, or for this video. So going back to the Final Destination franchise. So I left off where I was gonna say that the second movie, I think if I had to choose one Final Destination movie that was like my favorite, because there were definitely like not so great ones, not so memorable ones, but I thought the first Final Destination and the second one was really good. And I don't know if it's because like by the third one it's kind of just like same thing, we kind of already know what's gonna happen, but I do think that they still kept the very morbid scenes interesting enough that you'd want to see what the next movie had. So I think they did that well, but maybe just for nostalgia reasons, the second one was my favorite. That was the Final Destination with the logging scene. And then I think my second favorite would be the first one, just because, I don't know, it was the first one that came out, so super original in my opinion. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one too. So with this movie now, like watching it now as like an adult, it's been out for a couple of years now. It's not a movie where I'm like, it's so scary that I'm gonna like want to sleep with the lights on. It's not like that at all, just because it's not a situation that you could see happening to yourself. I think one reason why I find paranormal movies so scary is because I actually believe in it. Like I actually believe in ghosts and spirits and other realms and stuff. And I've had things happen to me in the past that I can't explain. And so I know that like that part of things are very real. But like for something like this, it's like, I don't think that there's like this like actual Grim Reaper that's like executing all these far-fetched scenarios to make sure that, you know, you die. Like I think a more realistic thing is if there was this higher power that could essentially do whatever it wanted to do to make sure it takes your life, like why wouldn't it just zap you and give you a heart attack? I don't know. I guess maybe it's funner for it in a sick kind of way. But I will say that the Final Destination movies, for me, like it's another one of those movies that I would just put on as more of like a feel-good movie. It feels so weird to say that out loud. I swear, you guys, I'm like a good person. I don't like actually wish any harm that happens in these movies onto someone. And actually, someone left a comment on my last video saying like, you people who glorify Halloween and death and stuff, like, you guys are a problem. Something like that. Something along those lines. Now, I can argue that like, yes, to some extent there are some really, really messed up movies out there. Like, you know, the really gory ones like Saw and stuff. That's not my favorite kind of horror genre. Like, I've watched all of the Saw movies once, would never watch it again. It's just not in my, I don't feel the desire to. But there are like genuine scary movies out there that, I don't know, I think are really good. And then there's still like feel-good Halloween movies like Halloween Town. Hello, you ever watched Halloween Town? Yeah, so for me, this is just one that like I would watch over and over again, like from the first movie until the last. Great movie to put on in the background. But overall, the franchise wasn't well received. Let's just put it that way. Did not get great reviews at all. I think the lowest Rotten score that I saw for one of the movies was like 27% or something like that, and the highest was like in the 60s at most, like 63 or something, which is kind of pathetic. But again, I don't know if it's maybe more so for nostalgia reasons rather than being like a legitimately good movie, but I just really, really enjoyed the entire franchise. I loved it. Still, like if someone wanted, you know, something to watch during the spooky season, I would always recommend like the Halloween series, like what's his name? Michael Myers, the whole thing. Final Destination. I'm not gonna name all of them because I do have some on this list, but the Final Destination would definitely be one of those like watch during Halloween kind of movies. Moving on to the next movie. So this one is actually like 2 movies in one. So this is my number 3 pick. So just as a reminder, I had 6 on my top list. So now we're on number 3. That one is gonna be 28 Days Later, which came out in 2002. And this is it's a zombie movie. It's about this rage-inducing virus that was started by chimpanzees that essentially spreads throughout humankind, and you just have these like ultra violent zombies that feed off of others' flesh. I mean, same thing, you know, all zombies have that premise. But that's what the plot is, basically, without giving away too much. I will say that when I think of a reason why I love this movie so much is because it is scored so freaking good, and it has arguably one of the most iconic sort of like theme songs out there. I feel like some of you guys might know which one I'm talking about. And even if you have never watched this movie, you probably have heard this score before, because I've found that other movies have used renditions of it, if not used it exactly, because it's so good. It's just so freaking good. And yeah, that's one reason that I just love it. I just felt like the way that the movie was filmed and edited and shot, the soundtrack, all of the scores on it, it just matched so perfectly. I think another thing that I really loved about this movie and why it resonated with me so much is because to me, it was one of the first zombie movies that I've watched where for some reason I was able to just want to make sure I'm using the right spray because I have an all-purpose spray for my counters that was right next to it. Anyway, it's one of the first movies where I was able to for some reason put myself in the shoes of the people in the movie, and it was just terrifying. I had so many moments where it was like, what would I have done in that scenario, or what would I do in that scenario? And you almost can feel that paralyzing fear that these characters were experiencing. Now, I don't know if it was again around the time that I watched it, because this came out in 2002 and how old was I in 2002? I have to do the math. I was 13 when this movie came out. Highly impressionable. Still kind of a big chicken. I did grow up watching scary movies, but I think this is one of the first movies that I watched where I had critical thinking skills, and I could feel like I could relate to someone even more. So that's one reason that I really enjoyed this movie. And on Rotten, it got an 87%, which I think it's a bit low, but still, I still think kind of fair. Now the next one is gonna be the sequel of this, which was 28 Weeks Later. And I have so much to say about this movie. I enjoyed this one more than Days, the 28 Days Later. I enjoyed it so much more, 100 times more than the first one. And one thing that really stands out to me with this movie is that it's probably one of the best opening scenes in horror cinematic history. It was so intense. It was so like raw and like terrifying. And the way that it was shot, like very, very shaky camera, you know, they're running with these people throughout the house. You felt like you were there, and it was like really, really scary. And it almost felt like a really long scene, almost too long, to the point where you're like, okay, we need this to end because I'm scared, I'm exhausted, I need some kind of break here, but they don't give it to you. Nope, they do not. It's just like you're holding your breath for what feels like 5 entire minutes. I also felt like this movie particularly really drew on the emotions of the watchers. There was a huge family aspect to it, which again, like the first movie, kind of makes you imagine what it would be like to be in that situation, except you're thinking about it in terms of people that you actually love in real life. And I know that's really messed up, but that's where it takes you, and it just makes you it just makes you feel all the things. And I think the reason why I found this movie to be so terrifying is because the zombies are so fast. They are so fast, you guys. I feel like this is one of the first, if not the first, maybe I'm wrong, because this came out in 2007. I think it was one of the first movies where zombies weren't just like, you know, doing the thing like Night of the Living Dead, like very, very slow. You could just like flick them and then they'd like fall over. These zombies were freaking fast, and they were running. They were so fast, and it was so scary, like, because it was different from, you know, just trying to be quiet and sort of, historically you didn't really even need to outrun zombies. You just had to make sure they didn't get too close to you, and they were just kind of scary, you know. But these zombies, it's like if you even tripped, if you even misstepped once, you're done for, because they would catch you. They're damn fast. Loved 28 Weeks Later. Like, if you're gonna only watch one of them, watch Weeks. It is so good. Again, another great movie with a great film score, beautifully edited. While we're on the topic of zombies, there were 2 honorable mention zombie movies that didn't quite make my favorites, but like if someone asked me for zombie movie recommendations, these 2 would be on the list. So the first one is Train to Busan, which is a Korean film. And I don't know about you guys, but Koreans just do movies and shows so good. They just do it better. So Train to Busan was another great zombie movie, another one that really drew on your emotions. I'm pretty sure I cried the first time I watched that movie. The zombies are freaking fast as well, super duper fast. And this one got 95% on Rotten, which well deserved. I highly agree with that. It was so, so good. I've watched that movie like more times than I can even count now or remember. And then the second one would be World War Z. Not quite as good as 28 Weeks or Train to Busan, in my opinion. And I think it only got like a 70-something score on Rotten. Maybe even lower than that. But if you want like a good, entertaining zombie movie to watch, and you want to like Google at Brad Pitt at like his prime of when he looked like a DILF, yeah, that's gonna be your one. Again, zombies in that movie, I think this is where you see kind of the evolution of zombies, because this one came out before Train to Busan, I believe. And this is the one where like zombies are not only scary looking, and not only are they freaking fast, but they're smart too. Like they actually have like logical thinking skills where they can like assess a situation and like just be smarter than you. They like climb on top of each other, kind of like ants, you know, when like ants like kind of climb on top of each other, and then they can form this like one big blob of ants. So they do that same thing where like you can have this super tall, one of the scenes is like they have this really, really tall wall to keep out the zombies, but they're all just like sprinting and they're all climbing on top of each other, and there's so many of them that they just get higher and higher and higher, and then they eventually like get over the wall because they become this blob of zombies, you know. So I thought it was scary, and I thought it was an entertaining watch. I feel like anybody who says that like World War Z wasn't entertaining to watch, What more are you sicko? You sicko, what more do you want? That movie was terrifying. So this is my crystal silver special. I don't think I necessarily need both in one pot. I think I'm gonna separate this one out and just grow it on its own. And I'll just have this one as my plant. So let me just give this a quick wash. I'm just about ready. I'm gonna take a break because I only have 2 more movies to talk about in depth. And I wanna get started on repotting. So I'm just gonna quickly wipe these down and then I'm gonna get my substrate. I think, oh my God. I think most of these are gonna go into soil, to be honest. I don't think I'm doing very many pond plants besides like for my ace of spades and stuff. So I need to grab my, actually I'm just gonna remove this leaf because it's like super yellow already. Okay. That's that, and then I have my Hoya serpens splash here and my Callistophila. I'm not gonna bother wiping those down. If anything, I'll just give them a good spray in the sink, and then that'll be that. I mixed a bit of soil, not my ideal mix because I'm out of a lot of things. I'm out of fir bark, and I'm out of cocoa husk. So it's a denser mix. I just tried to add a bit more perlite. So it's soil, orchiata, perlite, not quite coarse perlite, but like a little finer grade than coarse. No worm castings. What is that? Not horticultural charcoal, but biochar. Oh, and then I added like scraps of my Lechuzapon in here too that I was too lazy to like sift out, and I just added it into here. So that is what this little concoction is. I really wish that I did have some kind of bark, but this is all that I can work with at the moment, and I think it'll be okay. This potting mat is giving me the ick. Keeps rolling. So this is the pot that I'm using for this guy. This one was already in no drainage and it's been totally fine. My larger one was growing in no drainage, and yeah, I just have no issues with it. I forgot my Myco. I'll be using billions today, and not only am I sprinkling in some on the roots, but I'll be adding some to the water that I'll water with later. So, okay, continuing on this list, I finished talking about, the zombie movies. I think zombie movies have to be, for me, probably the most nostalgic genre of horror, mostly because, again, I grew up watching scary movies, and not only watching scary movies, but watching my dad play scary movies, or scary games. And I also like to play scary games when I got a bit older. I wasn't brave enough to do it when I was a teenager, but definitely into my adult years, I've, womaned up a bit. So I played all of the Resident Evils. The Evil Within was really good. I played that one like 5 times. The Last of Us was really good too. And I think that's the extent of my scary video game encounters. So yeah, I just have this fascination or this love for zombie movies that I don't think any other genre of horror can do for me. It's just always been like my #1. So yeah, give those a watch if you're into if you're into zombie movies as well. The next one that I'm gonna talk about on this list, this is #2 on the list, and that is The Ring from 2002. I feel like some of you guys watching this might agree with me that this really messed you up when you first watched it, because it definitely messed me up, that's for sure. I hate the way Summer Glory roots look, by the way. They're like really red and fuzzy for like a short period of time, and they go just like brown and crunchy. I don't know. They're completely healthy, it's just they don't look great. So The Ring is another supernatural horror. I think it would also kind of be categorized as psychological too. This one is the one that starred Naomi Watts, and I loved her in this one. So The Ring that came out in 2002 was a remake of another original movie that came out in 1998, and that movie was based on a book that came out in 1991, I think. I actually didn't know this about this movie until I was doing some research for this video, but the movie was actually primarily filmed in the state of Washington, and they actually even did some scenes in my favorite Washington state, not Washington DC, Washington state city, which is Bellingham. If I could choose to live in any city in Washington, it would definitely be Bellingham. Bellingham is, for me, the epitome of that small town feel, but just enough city to like sustain you. Like they have like good shopping, but they're like small business, mom and pop shops. You can easily just like walk into town and get a nice cup of coffee or get some like oysters on the half shell or something. Like it just has everything, and it's a very like historic town as well. One cool thing about Bellingham, so if you're in downtown Bellingham, I don't know how much of it is real. I would assume that it's real, but you can walk around the city and there's these little like plaques randomly on the ground depending where you are, or plaques in like a wooded area where it shows you like historical events that happened right where you're standing. Like there was like a mass in one of them, there was like a in another where like a family was killed. I know this is all morbid, but it's kind of like outlining the spooky history of the city on these plaques, and like you actually get to like see exactly where it happened. So I thought that was pretty neat. So yeah, I just love Bellingham. I wish that we could live there. The houses are really cute. They have, you know, those houses that like have that almost Victorian charm to it, but it has enough good bones in the house that you could definitely do some renovations and kind of modernize the interior and stuff. Oh man, I would just love to buy property in Bellingham. And it's like a waterfront city, so you get really good views of the ocean. You're right there next to the border. I don't know, to me Bellingham has everything. And like just a quick drive away from like the little historical downtown area, you have a shopping mall, you have an airport, an international airport. I think Bellingham is an international airport, so you still get like that city feel. Like you don't feel completely isolated, but when you're at home, if you do live in that downtown area, like you just feel like you live in this little country town, and it's so cute. I fell in love with Bellingham the second I stepped foot there for the first time. I was like, this is where I want to retire, I think. But now my husband and we kind of settled on the fact that we'll probably end up retiring somewhere like Mexico or the Philippines, where our money can go a lot further and we're not just inundated by rain all the time. So this one is potted, she's good. So going back to the movie, yeah, I mentioned that it was filmed in Washington, and it definitely has that like gloomy feeling that you get in Washington if you're there like during the fall or winter. Very like Twilight-esque, you know, because Twilight was filmed in, was it Oregon or Washington? It was one of those states, but it has that overall sort of feeling to it. And I just love that it was filmed in Washington state, and I think even some parts of it were filmed in Oregon. So the plot of this movie, if you're not familiar, it is basically about a reporter, Naomi Watts, who basically tries to escape death. Sorry, I need to switch the seat. I don't know why this one's clicking now too. Oh, much better. Sorry you guys if that was bothering you. So yeah, about a journalist, Naomi Watts, who basically is like trying to outrun death or escape death after watching a cursed videotape that you within 7 days of watching it, or on the 7th day after watching the video. I loved that the concept was using a videotape. I think there's something just naturally spooky about it being a video. I don't know why. It wouldn't be as scary as if it was like something modern day where it's like, oh, you watch this video on YouTube and then you die after 7 days. There's something about like having that video there, like putting it into like the VCR and like watching it. It's just spooky. The Ring, surprisingly, this is probably why all my chairs are squeaking. The Ring actually only got 71% on Rotten, and I don't agree with that. I think that's way too low of a score. I think it should at least be in the 80s. 71 is just way too low. Because this was one of the first movies that I've watched as a teenager that genuinely freaked me the hell out. It was one of the first movies that I watched where I felt like I was affected by it in my real life way more than any other movie had done to me. So I can vividly remember being like, you know, being a teenager, and I had one of those, like, I don't know if any of you guys had one of these TVs. I hope I can find a photo of it. It's like this little like tube TV, but like kind of trendy, had this little clock in the middle. God, I feel old. But for maybe months, I had to sleep with it either turned around or with like a cloth or something hanging over it. Like I could not just have that black screen on my TV just like glaring at me in the night. It freaked me out. Not only that, but Samara, who is the chick that like comes out of the well and comes out of the TV and unalives you, she's freaking scary too. She's like drenched, she's like all wet. She has like the creepiest like walk, like her limbs and bones are all broken. Her hair is like stringy and like wet, and it just like covers her face, and she has like pale white skin. Like she looks creepy. She has that iconic scary girl look. I think a lot of movies that came after this really based that like scary girl look after Samara, in my opinion. She was terrifying. I was scared of Samara. And it's weird because it's like I got paranoid. I'm like, well, I watched the video on the TV. Does that mean I'm cursed now too? And I had to keep reminding myself, and it was like the silliest thing. I'm like, there are people who made this movie, like this actors. This is all fake. But for some reason, I was paranoid. I'm like, I'm cursed. I'm cursed. Samara's gonna come for me. I am screwed. This is not gonna end well. And yeah, I was paranoid. So for a long time, I just couldn't sleep with the TV. I couldn't sleep with the TV on, that's one thing. So I used to sleep with the TV on for comfort. It kind of felt like there was a company with me, and I liked the white noise, and I would use it to fall asleep. But after watching that movie, I couldn't do that anymore. So I would just like sleep in complete darkness, which wasn't the greatest experience for me. I think to a certain extent, when I was younger, I was afraid of the dark, I think. It probably didn't help that I was just constantly watching scary movies. But yeah, I couldn't sleep with the TV on anymore. I used to like watch, I used to put on things like, what did I watch at night? Nick at Night, you know, all those shows and stuff. But it's kind of weird. I think that Nick at Night on the cable that we had, Nick at Night turned into like E! Entertainment or something after. And like I would wake up at 3 a.m. with my TV on, and it was like Girls Gone Wild. I don't know if you guys lived in the same era that I did, but if you're like millennial watching this, or not millennial, if you're Gen Z watching this video, this is true that literally on cable, like on TV, anybody could access this. At night, they would have a show called Girls Gone Wild where it was just a bunch of like topless women partying, making out with each other. Like it was like softcore, not joking. And so yeah, you'd have like, you're like watching a cartoon. Oh no, it wasn't Nick at Night. It was Cartoon Network, but like the nighttime version. So like Cartoon Network had like their daytime, you know, shows, but then at night it would be like more Adult Swim. There we go. So Adult Swim would turn into E! Entertainment at night, and it would be like, yeah, Girls Gone Wild. So I'd like wake up at 3 a.m. and there's just like girls like, woo, like with their tops off, and I'm like, okay, time to turn it off. But yeah, I couldn't do that anymore. I was just, had to turn the TV off, had to cover the TV, and it was like that for probably a solid 2 years. I'm not even joking. It messed me up for a good amount of time. So now going into the bad reviews of this movie, some of the critics said that there were too many plot holes. I can't really think of any plot holes at the top of my head. I think I might have to rewatch this movie again, which maybe I'll do it tonight to remind myself what plot holes that could be. But I don't really remember any. If you guys want to comment what any of the plot holes might be, let me know. People said that watching a tape and dying is dumb. A lot of the premise of the scary movies that we watch, it's just like so far-fetched, like duh, it's obviously like completely made up. So I thought it was pretty creepy watching like a cursed video or something. I believe in curses, that's for sure. Sorry, there's a lot of action on the river today. Another thing that people were saying was that there was too much scary fluff that didn't contribute to the actual plot. So they were saying like the cursed video itself, like parts of that video, like it made no sense. But I thought it was really creepy. You guys just have to watch it. And I don't think that there's really any like real rhyme or reason to like a cursed video. It's like completely made up. So who's to say what is a good cursed video over what's a bad cursed video? I don't know. It's bothering me that this leaf down here is just not cooperating. Okay, I think I'm gonna bury it like this deep. Yeah. I'm hoping that this isn't too dense for this plant, but this is a plant that's in an exo that gets controlled light. So I'm not really worried about it. And actually I had this, if you remember, I had it in a pot with drainage. The soil wasn't super dense, but holy smokes did that plant dry out a lot. So I actually think no drainage might be good for it. I did grow this thing in no drainage for a long time before I moved it to a pot with drainage. And that was only because that was the biggest pot that I had. I didn't at the time have a pot big enough that I could do no drainage. So I'm actually a little bit relieved. I'm gonna go back to no drainage. Okay, and then the last scary movie that I wanna talk about, which is #1 on my list, and don't roast me, okay? The heart wants what it wants, but it's The Others. The Others is a movie that came out in 2001, and honestly, if anybody asks me like what is my #1 scary movie recommendation, I think this one will always be like top of that list. So yeah, 2001 film starring Nicole Kidman. I don't like, okay, Nicole Kidman is a great actress, but something just really like bothers me about her, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but I loved her in this movie. I thought she was perfectly casted. I can't think of anybody else in Hollywood at the time that could have done it better than her. And that is just my opinion. I thought she was so great in it. I thought she was freaking perfect for the role. And she just, yeah, she acted her ass off. So this movie is categorized as a gothic, supernatural, psychological horror. It takes place in 1945 on this Channel Island of Jersey, which I like, you know, kind of alluding to my love of like small spooky towns, which is why I feel like I want to go to like Maine and Rhode Island and like Pennsylvania. Like, I don't know, I just have a desire to go to those areas and just, I don't know, soak in the history. So yeah, it takes place 1945, Channel Island of Jersey. It takes place at this, so yeah, they film at this like massive, beautiful mansion. It just absolutely stunning, creepy, but stunning. And they filmed this movie in many different locations around Spain. They filmed it at this like, yeah, essentially this mansion, or not castle, but like mansion in Spain. And the property itself is gorgina. It's so beautiful. I personally would never live on a property like that, even if it was like given to me. Like, let's say I don't know, I got an inheritance. Nope, not doing it. Not living there. Way too many ghosts, way too many areas for ghosts to hide. It's just, it would never happen. But, you know, it is super, super, super beautiful. I think if anything, maybe I'd turn it into like a bed and breakfast, but this one was particularly in a super isolated area, so not even the point. I don't even know why I'm talking about that. The basis or the plot of this movie is about a mother who, and this takes place in like, did I say it takes place in 1945? Yes. It takes place in the olden days, okay? 1945, that era, like 1920s to the 1950s, to me is like peak spooky decades. She moves into this huge mansion with her 2 kids that are both photosensitive, meaning they like can't be exposed to the sun. And her husband is away at war. 2 people show up at the house one day basically saying that they were the servants of the previous owners, and they were just like wondering if they could continue to work there, if she needed help. And so she hires them, and after they arrive, like really like weird paranormal spooky things start happening in the house. And I thought they did the spooky stuff really well with like the footsteps running and like the piano playing. And I don't know, I thought it was really freaking spooky. I'm not gonna give away all the like scary elements because this is the one movie I don't want to spoil. But I thought it was freaking scary. It got an 84% on Rotten, which fine, I accept. I think it should have gotten a higher score, but 84 I think is enough for someone to like look at that and be like, okay, yeah, I'll watch it, because it seems like it got good reviews. But I felt like this was the one movie around this time that did the plot twist perfectly. I thought it was executed perfectly. I certainly didn't see it coming. And yeah, I just thought it was beautifully written, beautifully acted, casted so well, scored well, edited well. I feel like that spooky factor that they were trying to portray, it came off really well, or it was executed really well. There was a good build-up to the end, where a lot of like the crazy unveiling of the story happens, but like up to that point, it is kind of a slow burn in terms of the scary things that happen in the house. There are parts that kind of seem really drawn out and stuff, but I felt like overall it was just such a entertaining watch. And throughout the whole movie, I always felt like I was like on edge. Like I never could like relax during that movie. And in addition to that, once it got to parts that had jump scares, I thought it was perfect. I thought the jump scared. They definitely jump scared me. And there are scenes in that movie that I can still remember that really, really freaked me out for a while too after I watched it. Just kind of those like images that kind of burn into your head where you're like, oh yeah, that was like pretty creepy. I guess like the bad reviews for that movie were that it was too slow. There was not enough suspense. I thought there was enough suspense. I never really exactly knew where the movie was going. It always had these little like clues here and there of like what your theory of what might be happening is. But there wasn't anything definitive, obviously, until the very end. And I don't know, I thought it was great. I don't agree with the bad reviews of this movie, and it just continues to be one of my favorites. I literally just watched it 2 nights ago. All right, moving on to my last few plants that I need to repot. There's just the 4 anthurium that are gonna go into pond. I think there was one plant, I think it might have been this one where I said I was gonna maybe move it to soil, but no, I think I'm gonna go with pond. I hate when they put these freaking stickers on there and then they don't come off and you have to like run it under hot water just to remove it. But now that my anthurium are in my cabinet back there, I want to get everything out of just like ugly plastic cups and stuff. I want to at least put them in clear cash pots and not have the price sticker showing. It's little things like that, you know, that kind of bring the whole thing together. For me, if you're looking at your plants as like a display, I don't necessarily feel like having plastic pots, like, you know, reusable cups and stuff is really adding to the allure of it. I feel like you should try and put things in nicer vessels, remove price tags if you can. In my head, when I'm like styling plants or whatever, I always think like if this was being photographed for like a magazine or something, would I want that in the image? Like if I saw that in a photo, that would not fly with me. Okay, so now that I've gotten through my top 6, I guess, favorite scary movies, or like my top recommendations for scary movies, I do have some honorable mentions just because there's so many out there that I can't choose. So I'll feel better if I at least mention these to you guys. Who goes in what? That one? Why do I have so many vessels now? Oh, this one goes in here. Sure, whatever. Okay, so the first one is gonna be The Grudge. I almost wanted to add this as a favorite, but when I compare it to, I think one of the most comparable movies to The Grudge is The Ring, and I feel like they probably came out around the same time. Maybe not, maybe they, I don't know. Maybe within the same decade at least. The Grudge, yes, has some very scary elements to it, but it didn't quite do it for me as much as The Ring did. But for me, this is way too large, bro. But for me, it's good enough to at least mention it as a movie worth watching during Halloween. So this one is in a cup that is slightly smaller, and that's because I want to keep the reserve about right here. I don't want it to be completely submerged. Some of them I feel more comfortable, like this one, having water basically touching the bottom of the roots. This one I'm not feeling super great about. It doesn't have the most robust root system, so I wanted to get it into a vessel that was a bit smaller. Same thing for this one. I'm gonna have this one a little bit higher. So anywho, okay, so The Grudge. Another one that I recommend is Candyman. Both the original Candyman and the 2021 remake of it. I thought they were both really creepy in their own ways. I thought the remake was different enough that it was it almost felt like you were watching like a brand new concept movie for the first time. Sometimes I feel like people do like the shot for shot, like where it's too similar and you're just like, okay, yeah, I'm bored. But this one was really, really good. I thought it was casted really nice as well. When I watched the first Candyman, the original, I wasn't actually that spooked by it, but I was definitely more creeped out by the remake, to the point where Vince, after we watched that movie, one day he joked around. We were in a bathroom and he started to say Candyman 3 times, and I freaked. I was like, don't, I will cut your tongue off if you say it. Like, I was genuinely like spooked that something bad was gonna happen. And it feels kind of funny to say this, or just like kind of weird to say this. I almost chase that feeling of being like so spooked to the point where like in my real life, I'm like paranoid about things. I don't know if that's bad. But I like love that feeling. I think it's like the same feeling that people get when, sorry, my leg is itching so bad, I swear I'm not scratching my butt. Like people who ride roller coasters, like that high, like that fear that they're chasing. I get that same feeling with scary movies. Like there are scary movies where like you watch it and then like you never think about it after you're done watching it. Whereas some kind of linger and you're like, maybe I'll keep the lights on tonight, or have an extra, or maybe I'm not gonna close my eyes in the shower today. That is the feeling that I'm like constantly chasing, and every time I watch a scary movie, I'm always hoping that I'll have that feeling afterward. So that's why I really enjoy Candyman, because Vince would have, like, if Vince had said it 3 times, I think I would have been, I think I would have thought that my life was ending. I almost want to cut this down a little bit. Why is this stem so freaking long, dude? Well, it's not even just long, but why is this root system so massive for how big this plant is? I'm gonna cut it. I'm not even gonna think about it. I'm just gonna cut it. I cut it. I don't know if Alice has this plant, but if she doesn't, this one is now going to her. I told her she needs to make me a list of Amanda plants that she doesn't have yet that I need to chop for her. Look at all that root. Holy smokes. And I still have so many roots up top here. So, okay, continuing on. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but Wreck, very good. I like that one. I thought that was really scary. And I feel like a lot of horror movie enthusiasts that I've also talked to about this movie have all agreed that it was like really scary and really good. And then another one is basically, I couldn't choose just like which one to pick, but basically anything from like the Conjuring universe. Annabelle, Insidious, you know, those ones. You have to actually, you don't have to watch it in the order that it came out. There's actually an order, I saw it online, where you watch the movies in a certain order so that it like makes sense in like the entire universe. I'll see if I can find the list, and if I can, I will put it in the description. And I recommend you watch it in that order rather than watching like the first Insidious and then the second one, and then, you know, like, yeah, you get what I mean. Yeah, anything from the Conjuring universe for me is like a good watch. I'm not gonna say it's like my favorite. I don't think that, I feel like a lot of people categorized everything from the Conjuring universe to be like a different kind of scary and like super original and never done before. I do think that there are elements of those movies that are like beautifully written and acted, but I don't like, there's really not one of those movies from that universe that like makes me feel like I need to watch it again, or like that was so freaking scary, like, you know, that's gonna be like a must watch during every Halloween. Like, I don't know, I feel like they all kind of like mesh together and have the same kind of horror element to it. So it's nothing like extremely special for me, but I do think that they are good movies and they're well written. So I still would recommend it. For obvious reasons and nostalgic reasons and classic reasons, Silence of the Lambs, that one's a good one. A Quiet Place, I thought this one was so original and so good. There have been other movies along this premise, like what's that one with Julia Roberts? Is it Julia Roberts? Am I thinking of the right actress? Where she's like blindfolded? Can't remember. And there's another one that came out, oh man, I can't remember the names of it, but there are a few movies that came out with the premise of like, don't make noise because then they'll find you. But I thought that A Quiet Place did it perfectly. Both movies. So there's A Quiet Place 1 and 2. So good. So good. I watched both of them in the theater, I think, and I remember thinking, or talking to Vince after those movies, like, damn, that was like a really freaking good movie. And you would think after the first one, because it set the bar so high, that like the second one would kind of flop or just like not be as good, but I thought they were both so good for their own reasons. I think the first one was better, but the second one was still so incredibly good too. Another one that I want to recommend, and I think it's the last one that I'm going to recommend, and this one is more recent, and I remember watching the trailer of this and being like, okay, that's freaking scary. That's very scary. Very scary, very original. Never seen that before. And that's Smile. I don't know if you guys watched that trailer, but holy crap. Not only is the concept of like the whole smile thing kind of creepy. I don't know why someone's smiling before they're about to like, you know, I'm not gonna say too much, but the smile itself is very creepy. There were many scenes in that movie where it wasn't just like a jump scare, but just the leading up to the jump scare, the suspense up to the jump scare that was like you're holding your breath. And I remember I watched it for the first time with Vince. We both thought it was an incredible movie, and then we watched it again with my siblings and their partners, and oh my gosh, sorry Taylor, my brother-in-law is like, he scares easily, and he was just like jumping at every little thing. And my sisters, who both love horror movies as well, like they agreed that that was like, it was very, very scary. super, super scary. So give that one a watch. I highly recommend that one. I wish, that's one of those movies that I wish that I could experience rewatching it again for the first time. I don't feel that way for very many things, but I feel that way with basically all the movies on my top 6 list. Friends, I wish I could rewatch for the first time all over again. The Office, like, you know, just to like experience it again, like the brand newness of it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm probably not making sense. I've been filming for so long, you guys. This video for a Wednesday upload, holy smokes, it's gonna be like 3 hours long. I've been here for forever, and I thought that I wasn't gonna have enough to talk about, and I thought I wasn't gonna have enough plants to repot. And I was very wrong, because I started filming, I think at noon, and now it's 4:30, and I haven't really taken that many breaks. So that's gonna be really great to film or to edit. Ugh! Why do I always do this to myself? Maybe next week I'll post super short videos. Okay, the last one that I'm gonna repot is my Hoya Serpent Splash. I'm not gonna show you how I repot the Callistophila, because one, I'm not repotting it. I'm actually just gonna shove it into like a bin with maybe moss or something, and just get it re-rooted, and then I'll shove it in my tent. And you will see my tent on Saturday, because I'm filming that video right after this if I still have a voice and still have energy. But it's been a while since I've shown my tent, and I feel like people are wondering like what the heck happened to it. So the Hoya Serpens is gonna go into this cup because I need it to be light, because it's hanging in my Rudsta, and I don't know, it feels weird to put it in glass if it's gonna be hanging by a hook. So I think I'm gonna just start by like maybe trimming off some of these areas that are already looking like it's gonna become bare. So like right here where all of it is turning yellow. And then maybe, gosh, I don't even know which strands are gonna survive. I don't quite know what's happening here. Okay, so like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm doing a soil mix with moss in it just to give it something familiar. And it already has like a bunch of moss stuck to these roots. If I can just get this yellowing to stop, that would be great. And I'm almost wondering if I want to like chop off these runners, because it looks a little bit cray-cray right now. I'm not really loving what I'm seeing. I mean, I know that like leaves can grow from it, but as it is right now, it's just kind of giving me the ick a little bit. So I'm gonna just chop. This thing is gonna be bleeding everywhere. Ah, it's on me already. I almost feel like, I think these are peduncles. I think it was trying to flower. Don't you dare. That is too spooky. Okay, now that I have sap all over me, let's get this repotted. So anyway, you guys, that is it for my list. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you get to watch some scary movies that maybe were not on your radar before. I feel like most of the movies I watched are I feel like most of the movies I mentioned are very mainstream. Honestly, I feel like I could do like a 10-part video on a bunch of different scary movies I like and why I like them. And I was actually thinking of doing an anti-scary movie anti-scary movie list of scary movies that I freaking hated. So if you guys want to see that, I can do that too. I don't really have, like, I do have like a few videos planned for October, but not every single day has been filled with a video idea. So if you want to see that, I can definitely squeeze it in this month. I definitely have more things that I need to repot too. Hopefully it won't be as long, because this video is way too long. I honestly feel like this thing is gonna just completely yellow. But that's what she looks like now. Everybody wish her the best. I forgot to inoculate her, but I'll do it in the water anyway. So yeah, that's gonna be it, you guys. I've been here for forever. If you guys have any scary movies that you want to recommend to me, Hopefully I haven't watched it yet. I am always open to that. It doesn't even have to be an English movie, like it can be a foreign film. I actually prefer foreign films because I find them to be spookier. Don't forget my merch comes out Friday the 13th. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and I will see you in the next one.